extensive ethnographic research throughout northern India, interviewing and remaining memory bearers of the Gurbani Kirtan Parampara, and was honored by the 13th generation Kirtaniya Bhai Baldeep Singh Ji, grandnephew of Bhai Avtar Singh and Bhai Gurcharan Singh Ji, as the first female exponent of Amritsari Baj on Jori Pakhwaj. Her ongoing research investigates diversity in the Sikh diaspora, particularly as it relates to gender and institutionalized norms within the devotional sphere. We are very glad to have you here, Professor Khalsa, and we're looking forward to your talk. And the title of the talk is Interconnected Ethics, Living as Warrior Saints of Freedom and Equality of All.
Thank you all for having me here today. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I've been very much enjoying the conversation that we've had today and so inspired by the Sikh youth. And it seems like our future is very bright, and in many ways I feel like my talk is speaking to an audience that already understands all of this. We are all here together today to share in the beauty and the vision that the Gurus have given us, as well as the various saints throughout India, as we have heard. This is a very pluralistic scripture that we have been given, the Guru itself, and our perspective conveys this as well. So I very much appreciated this idea of pluralism being acceptance, respect, and to protect that pluralism. And I appreciated that our conversation just ended on accepting, respecting, and protecting that within our Sikh community itself. So I will begin. Thank you to the San Jose Gurdwara and the Chardi Kala Foundation for making this wonderful conference possible. I'm honored to be here with all of these esteemed scholars and on this panel, as well as with everyone here today. Today we are discussing how to apply this timeless message of Gurbani across time, space, and cultures, here and now in today's world. So how can we understand what Gurbani is giving us and apply it to our daily lives? So this is what I will speak about today. Coming from my own background, within the 3HO Sikh Dharma community, I was born a Sikh, and then all of the bio that was already given about me has informed my perspective today. I was able to do dissertation work, field work, traveling throughout India. I had a Fulbright scholarship, and I was able to work with Dr. Gurnam Singh at Punjabi University, Patiala. And so it's been wonderful to really understand Sikhi in its fullness. I'm now a clinical professor at Loyola Marymount University. I teach Sikh and Jain studies. So the Sikh and Jain communities have come together to teach about the minority traditions. I teach classes to undergraduates. It's a Catholic university. Most of my students are not Sikh. So the way that I approach the topic is for a more generalized audience. And the clinical professorship is a term professorship. It's a 3-year professorship based on the funding from the community. So they are looking to extend that term and are looking for support to be able to continue this program at Loyola Marymount University as well. In this class that I teach, the students, they visit multiple Gurdwaras in the area. We have engaged learning. They attend Baisakhi and Guru Nanak's birthday, which is held at the LA Convention Center. They come to the Sunday Khalsa school classes. They perform seva, both within the Gurdwaras and then also with the homeless throughout Los Angeles with the Khalsa Peace Corps. And they are able to interview and interact with community members as well while they do this. Also, students are asked to do their own practices. So we have them practice Nam Simran, Nam Japna, meditation, mindfulness. Some of them choose to practice being vegetarian or vegan, as well as practices of non-ego attachment. So how do we act selfishly in our daily lives, and how can we limit that? So the students are able then to recognize, it's not working. Should I okay, this Can you try it now? And also for the PowerPoint. I can. Just to help with the talk, but they're not necessary. So, pardon? What is called the Peace Corps? So there's a food truck that feeds the homeless, and people go and they come, they roll burritos. It's called Share a Meal, and everyone is able to come, roll the burritos, and then pass them out to the homeless throughout Los Angeles. And so it was started by a Sikh family, and it's continued to be a very positive organization that really serves the Los Angeles community, and that my students love participating in. Past the course, they choose to go back and participate in it. As well as past the course, they choose to continue to engage in their meditative practices that they've started, as well as some have come to Gurdwara on their own. So there's this engaged learning component that the students have that allow them to really understand Sikh practice. So we can't understand what the Guru Granth Sahib is teaching us without practicing it as well. Within this university itself, they understand that the engagement of the students is important to understanding the knowledge as well. So we're able to do these engaged practices. Thank you so much. Great, so this is students coming to Baisakhi and Gurdwara and the Khalsa Peace Corps there. And so once they practice, they do these practices, then it allows them to actually move themselves towards a mindset that acknowledges themselves as being in relation to each other, that it's characterized by love for one another. And this is a love that sacrifices the ego-centered self. It's the core concept of ego loss that offers a dynamic, ethical paradigm based on this interconnectedness of life. The practices allow us to observe the symbiotic relationship between perspectives and practices, between our thoughts and our actions, between our mind, body, and spirit, so that the students can understand firsthand how Sikhism offers an ethical and moral guidelines for living in the world today. And I would like us all to just do a quick practice. If you could sit up straight in your chairs, put your feet on the ground, close your eyes, and we'll just silently inhale, mentally repeating Sat, exhaling Nam, inhaling Wahe, exhaling Guru, inhaling Sat, exhaling Nam, inhaling Wahe, exhaling Guru. And that's just a small example of what I have them do every class. For about 3 minutes at the beginning of every class, they can get a sense of how that can change your you're engaging in the world, allowing you to be more present in the moment, to really engage with others and have that dialogue that we were just speaking about. The wisdom enshrined in the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib is not meant to only be read, recited, sung, and studied, but it's meant to be experienced, practiced, and lived today in the here and now. The Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib conveys a harmonious vision beyond boundaries, borders, and divisions. It encapsulates the interconnected nature of this harmony through its materiality, its musicality, its authorship, language, script, and content. It aligns the pan-Indic spiritual insights and wisdoms from multiple religions, regions, languages, faiths, and castes. Within the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib, this diversity is harmonized within a common text, which is the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib, a common script, which is Gurmukhi, a shared musical language of Rag, and a common message, which, as Harbhajan Singh Khalsa Yogi Ji expresses, if you can't see God in all, you can't see God at all. This catchy phrase is a clear way to illustrate this interconnectedness, this interconnected ethics that's revealed by Guru Nanak when he says, Ek Onkar Satnam, that we are all one in this true reality, that it is this oneness that was transmitted by the Sikh Gurus and enshrined in the Guru Granth Sahib. Guru Nanak states that the highest yogic order is to see the brotherhood of mankind. Through conquering our own minds, you conquer the world. Man jeeta jag jeet. This interconnected perspective based on an experience of ego loss or egolessness, is the foundation of Sikh ethics. It encourages us to practice love in action as warrior saints, who have the courage to stand against injustice and defend those in need for the freedom and equality of all. Guru Nanak Dev Ji's socio-religious intervention in the early 16th century promotes an ethical paradigm based on an interconnected oneness that resists religious and social inequality and resists the communal violence that we've seen so much of as of late, or the violence directed at particular communities. Guru Nanak Dev Ji paved the way for the fifth Sikh Guru, Guru Arjan Dev Ji, to transcend social, religious, and linguistic divisions by compiling the Adi Granth, a musical poetic scripture unlike any other, with first-hand expressions of divine experience from the Sikh Gurus themselves, as well as those from their disciples, court musicians, and those of different religious, ethnic, linguistic, and social backgrounds. The 10th Sikh Guru further transgressed socio-politic religious norms by proclaiming that the Adi Granth would be the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib, the eternal living Guru of the Sikhs. Recognizing the faulty nature of human authority that can lend itself to unethical behavior, Guru Gobind Singh removed any possibility of ego posturing in relationship to the Guruship. He ceased the lineage of human successors and instead invested the sovereign authority of the Sikh community into the Guru Granth, the Shabad Guru. This act displaced the authority that is subject to time and space, this human authority, and invested it in the eternal word as Guru that each Sikh can embody within their self, here and now, through the practices of Nam Japna, Nam Simran, and Gurbani Kirtan. In this way, Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib, as the Bani Guru, offers a radical mode of sovereignty that unifies rather than divides. This is not subject to laws of succession and infighting. It is an authority that itself contains the tools towards one's own liberation from the ego-dominated self towards a path of love that is a revolutionary notion of sovereignty that allows us to live in this world as warrior saints who, through conquering our own selfish, ego-centered minds and behaviors, recognize our shared humanity and stand courageously for the equal rights and freedom of all. Guru Gobind Singh calls for this vision of unity when he declares, all men are the same though they appear different. All human beings have the same eyes, the same ears. All human beings are the reflection of one and the same Lord. Recognize the human race as one. Guru Gobind Singh, like the Sikh Gurus before him, led by example, recognizing the interconnected nature of the hukam at play within the world and understood the importance of fighting for justice without anger, greed, pride, attachment, without enmity, with nirbhav and nirvair. Even after his father and great-grandfather were martyred for taking a stand against religious persecution and taking a stand against forceful conversion at the hands of Mughal rule, they took a stand so that all faiths may live freely, rather than submit to an unjust and oppressive rule. While the world has changed much in the last 500 years since the time of the Sikh Gurus, there are many things that remain the same. People continue to struggle against unjust power structures. With the current pervasiveness of fear and hate rhetoric, we continue to see boundaries erected along nationalistic, religious, ethnic, and race lines, separating ourselves from our shared humanity and causing acts of violence. In the US, there have been many hate crimes, particularly aimed at Khalsa Sikh fathers, uncles, husbands, brothers, grandfathers, and sons, whose identity with their turbans and beards visually represent to an unknowing and uneducated public terrorism, fear, and distrust, rather than the Khalsa attributes as given by Guru Gobind Singh, which represent contentment, acceptance, honor, strength, justice, and equality for all. Thousands of hate crimes have been inflicted upon Sikhs since September, or 1,000 or so hate crimes that have been tracked have been inflicted upon Sikhs since September 11th, 2000, when terrorists flew their airplanes into the Twin Towers, and the media continually showed Osama bin Laden with his turban and his beard as the epitome of evil and as the enemy. Since 9/11, there have been countless hate crimes against Sikhs who continue to be targeted as terrorists due to their own turbans and beards. Rather than responding with hate and rage, the Sikh community has called for greater education about who Sikhs are, with prayers for unity and with forgiveness in their heart. A few days after September 11th, the Sikh man Balbir Singh Sodhi was murdered outside of his gas station in Phoenix, Arizona by Frank Roque, who killed him out of rage and hate of who he perceived as the enemy. Frank Roque was sentenced to a life in prison. After this horrific crime, Balbir Singh Sodhi's brother, Rana Singh Sodhi, began working with Sikh activist Valerie Carr to spread the Sikh message of revolutionary love and forgiveness, even for your opponents and enemies. Recently, Frank Roque agreed to speak with them over the phone, and Rana Singh Sodhi, in the spirit of Sikhi, offered him forgiveness. At the beginning of the month, we commemorated the 5th anniversary of the horrific shooting at the Gurdwara in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, when on August 5th, 2012, a white supremacist opened fire on the Sikh Sangit. After this atrocity, Harpreet Singh, who had lost his mother in the attack, he worked with the Sikh Coalition to pass a resolution. Thank you. To pass a resolution that the FBI's National Hate Crimes Database would finally track hate crimes against Sikhs. His testimony in front of the Senate demonstrates the Sikh ability to stand with courage and love in the face of hate. He said, "Senators, my mother was always there for us. She always had a smile on her face, but now she's gone because of a man who hated her because she wasn't his color, his religion. I want to tell the gunman who took her from me, you have been full of hate, but my mother was full of love." This proclamation of love from a young Sikh man who had just lost his mother exemplifies how Sikhs live their lives and how they continue to respond to these crimes of hate, not with hate, anger, revenge, or fear, but with nirbhav and nirvair. Excuse my emotion, first time speaking publicly about this particular incident. But at the same time, while we may feel emotional, we can stand with courage to face it and to respond accordingly. The Sikh Gurus teach us how to live in Ekankar, to be fearless warriors who also do not cause fear, to be without enmity, to have no enemies, to recognize our shared humanity. The warrior saint concept serves as an ethical model for us all, to not vilify the other, but to act with compassion, grace, dignity, and understanding, even in the face of hostility and adversity. Guru Nanak instructs, "Joto prem ke lana khachao, sir dar thali gali meri aao. Aao ji aao, sir dar thali gali meri aao ji aao. Joto prema ke lana khachao, sir dar thali gali meri aao ji aao." I'm a percussionist, not a singer, but This Sikh perspective that we must first conquer the ego mind to serve others underpins the warrior saint tradition that calls us to stand against injustice and defend those in need, where by serving others, we serve the divine interconnected whole. The Sikh gurus teach us that the root cause of injustice and oppression is our haume, is our selfish desires which build walls between you and me and never make us happy, that our desires are thirsts that can never be quenched, that our minds beg for more, blind to the gifts that we've already been given, that it's our selfish nature that obscures our recognition of the divine light within all and separates us from our humanity. This separation from the greater whole causes a deep existential pain, lack, or void that the ego is constantly trying to fill by creating an economy of exchange that treats others as objects that can be used, bought, or sold. This existential grief and pain is then externalized, expressed as an economic lack that can only be fulfilled through accumulation and oppression, and that can only be solved by vilifying and hating the other, rather than looking within one's own mind, heart, and self. Today, we see this existential come economic grief and pain projected onto precarious minority communities worldwide. From the killing of Srinivas in Kansas and the shooting of Deep Rai, a Sikh man in Kent, Washington, who were both told to go back to your country, to the bomb threats at Jewish community centers and fires and shootings at mosques, and most recently the killing of Heather Heyer, who stood in the front lines in Charlottesville to protest the white supremacist rally that was happening there. Even though she was concerned about the potential violence that would occur, she decided to follow the path of love and place her head in her hands and to stand against social inequality and injustice. Yet, she was killed by a motorist full of hate and rage. So what can we do in the face of all this violence? The fifth Sikh Guru, Guru Arjan, in his Sukhmani Sahib, gives a formula for how humans can remove their inner turmoil, their pain, their sorrow, and find peace, love, and acceptance. He says, replace your self-centered thoughts, speeches, and actions with love for all. By meditating on the divine unity of creation, our pain and our sorrow depart. Peace dwells in our hearts and mind. We perform good deeds and selfless service for others. We meditate, we do seva. Because we see no separation between ourselves and others and recognize the divine light that shines within all, we are then able to treat enemies and friends alike, and to peacefully accept whatever happens. This isn't an easy task, it's difficult. The Sikh teachings enshrined in the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib offer an ethical model to train our bodies and minds to live as warrior saints who have the courage. Core in courage is the Latin word for heart. To have the courage, the heart, the love, to give of one's head, to give of one's ego, to stand against injustice and defend those in need for the freedom and equality of all. In closing, I offer the Song of the Khalsa, which we sing at the end of every 3HO Sikh Gurdwara before the Anand Sahib, as a reminder to lead by example as warrior saints. That it is our duty to stand tall in Chardi Kala, in the face of darkness, so that all may prosper by thy grace. Sarbat Davala. We sing, many speak of courage, speaking cannot give it. It's in the face of death that we must live it. When things are down and darkest, that's when we stand tallest. Until the last star falls, we won't give an inch at all. Stand as the Khalsa, strong as steel, steady as stone. Give our lives to God and Guru, mind and soul, breath and bone. Satnam. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa. Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Bole so nihal.
Oh, great. We can go to lunch. Thank you.
You have time for one question if somebody has some.
We have time for one question in case somebody has one.
So
Yes.
how many students are there usually in your classes? How many students per year?
They have a cap of 25 in each class, and I usually allow more in. People are very interested to take these courses at the university. And, but because of the engaged learning requirement, and it's a writing requirement, that they keep the classes pretty small.
And do you get a few from Sikh families?
Yes, I've had a few Sikh students, a lot of South Asian students, a lot of Southeast Asian students, but not that many Sikhs themselves. So for most people, this is very introductory information. So the way that I spoke about it here today is the way that I speak about it in my classes, that they can understand how that they could apply these concepts and these practices. And we read Bani, we read Gurbani, so they're able to read it, understand it, and then see how they can apply it to their own lives. And the idea also of comparative theology, of doing this with other religious traditions, is that then they can also, it enhances their own religious perspectives, their beliefs, it deepens them for themselves. So I've had a lot of feedback from students that they very much appreciate it because it allows them to look at their own traditions more deeply and understand them more holistically in a sense.
And do you also get to teach Jainism a little bit?
Yes, I teach a Hinduism, Jainism, and Yoga course. And I'm going to be teaching a master's course in comparative mysticism, and I'll include Sikhi within that course as well. So it's been very interesting thinking about Jainism and Sikhism together. We recently had a conference, Spiritual Warriors Nonviolence, in the Sikh and Jain traditions at LMU. And we're able to look at how both Sikh and Jains, while their practices may be different, and maybe we see them on different ends of the spectrum in some ways, that both practices are all about purifying your inner self, the Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ahankar, and how we can purify that within ourselves and be those spiritual warriors, while Sikhs also then take it to how can we protect and defend others. Jains also try to not harm others. So they have similar belief systems, but are practiced in very different ways. And different belief systems also, of course.
I think you are in a good position to offer suggestions how we can disseminate the knowledge about Sikhism and the basic concepts, so that others are aware of what Sikhi stands for, and we are not disrespected for our robes, for our turbans, and so on.
I think that's the effort of having Sikh studies in the universities, is so that you teach a wide variety of audience. For me, the classes are all, theology classes are required for students to take. So this is part of the core. So students from all across the university might take my class, and then they're able to disseminate the information to their own friends and communities. And I do actually give my students a questionnaire whether they'll share the information with others, and resoundingly I get yes, because they go to the Gurdwaras, they speak to Sikhs, they have the opportunity not only for the book learning and that type of education, but to really interact with the communities, interact with the practices, really understand. I'm at a Jesuit institution, and so they're very service oriented. They can really see then how Sikhs are so service oriented as well. And so they're able to find these commonalities. So I think the interfaith dialogue is very helpful, but also sharing it with the youth. Because my understanding of the generations, the youth today, is that they're very much hungry for this idea of acceptance and pluralism, and they really want to understand the diversity that's in the world. And so being able to share that with them seems to be effective. But just taking those key universal kind of terms is what I commonly do, and then getting into the specifics, of course, in the course as well.
Thank you very much. Let's have a jaikarah. Bole So Nihal.